nerds! Sage is here. So, on today's video, just before, Faye tosses herself into the fire again, we're going to be going over Fjorm. At least as in-depth as I possibly can. But before I do that, I do need to give a special big thanks to Gas Station, for hosting me on his podcast. Get it? God, that man is amazing with puns. Where do I learn that? Anyways, he is not human. We went over a lot of this in depth on his thing, and I would love it if you guys watched that as well, because we just did a much better job than I'm probably going to do here. But I wanted to take a look at her, take a look at Fjorm, because she's going to be the next free-to-play unit that you can get. And, well, we do know her stats at least somewhat from the stream, and we can get a better idea of how she's going to function outside of, well, a few things that kind of need some explaining. So, anyways, let's scurry on over past her lovely introductory cutscene, and we're going to be able to look at Fjorm, who, of course, is guaranteed once you complete Chapter 1 of Book 2. So everyone's going to get her at neutral stats, but she also will be summonable during the Legendary Hero event, which is also pretty good. But the one thing that we need to pay attention to here is we're going to just, hopefully my mouse cursor, yep, it's there. Okay, good, I can point. So we're going to ignore whatever these are, because we are not sure what they mean, what they exist for, what exactly they're worthwhile for. So, just ignore that. But we do need to mention the fact that she has 39 HP, 46 attack, 31 speed, 30 defense, and 34 resistance. She is a general all-arounder. Now, before people start going and saying, well, that's 31 speed's not that great, and, all that other stuff, because I know someone in the comments is going to point that out and just say that she's not good just inherently because of speed. But one thing you need to realize now more than ever is that as time has gone on, speed for some units has actually become a lot less necessary. I mean, we got Dorcas just recently, and even then, 31 speed is not terrible by any stretch. But let's just take a look at her abilities. So first off, what we can tell is that she has some bomb-ass animations, of course, and some really nice art. But the one thing that we do need to pay attention to is that her special ability is called Ice Mare. Now, I want you guys to pay attention to the numbers up here, okay? Just pay attention to them real quick. So, mostly the poor mage here is going to do 2 damage, but that's actually going to do 0 because of Shield Pulse, which is one of her passives that she has. That's going to do 0. But the one thing that we do see here is that after she uses that 2 from the damage that she would have taken was added to her own. So she does 37 instead of the whole 35, which might be useful in some situations. It's basically, from what I can tell, an upgraded Aegis, and it seems to stem from that line. So yeah, and that's probably an ability that only she has, because again, it's Ice Mare. Fjorm is an ice princess. That's the typical kind of thing. Yes, so it's going to be really strange to see this ability. We're going to see how well that's going to work. But as you can see, it's a fascinating concept and something that might work pretty well. But outside of that, we do have a few other things we can talk about when it comes to Fjorm. And while I love watching Faye do her little owl happiness thing and reversing tapes and fun stuff, we do need to take a look at this real quick since we can. Okay, so. First up, let's just, come on, roll, there we go. First up, we do know that, in case you couldn't tell, that her weapon seems to have some sort of distant counter ability, mostly because the tome unit attacked her, and she was able to fight back against that. That might be something to do with these, but it looks like she's going to have a distant counter effect or ability, so, yeah. Next thing we need to talk about is attack and defense bond, which means the more characters she's around at the time, she will get an additional attack and defense. Basically, it's it's basically a reverse spur, in that it affects one unit, but it's really powerful, things like that. Nothing too crazy there, but it is a decent enough ability for some characters to actually make use of. Not only that, it isn't a C skill, it's actually an A skill. you know, we've seen it with Naui. This is at least Halloween Naui, so it's going to be interesting to see this in effect. I see a lot of other potential abilities that are just great. The other ability that she has, of course, is Shield Pulse, which allows her to do, well, take less damage, get a little bit of a recharge effect, and basically when she triggers her special, she takes like 5 less damage. It's an interesting concept. I'm going to be saying interesting a lot, but it's something that we've only seen on Saber until about now, so it's really hard to say if that's going to be all that useful, but the other thing that she has is, of course, Drive Attack. And Drive Attack is insanely useful. That means that it spur wider range 2 squares over instead of 1, which means she does not have to stay completely, you know, insanely close to her teammates for them to get the additional attack, which for that is an additional 3 attack per. So, that's a good thing. I see a lot of people possibly trying to roll for her to get her ability. Now, the thing is she going to be useful? Or a lot of people have been debating it. Well, with 30 defense and 34 res, that's substantial. Not as say substantial as maybe our good friend Dorcas, who has a bunch of defense and a little bit of res, but with some good altercation, with some nice special abilities, you could probably bump her up even further. She's going to be able to take hits rather well. Just to give you an example, if you were to give her a distant defense seal and maybe even swap out her, you know, A slot, which maybe not the best ability to swap out, but let's say you gave her distant defense in that slot as well, she would be able to boost up her defense and her resistance to phenomenal levels that would allow her to tank things much better, and would allow Ice Mirror to be even more effective if you decide to use her. She's going to be a baiting tool. And from what I can tell, at least, when it comes to this unit, I do apologize there's no music right now. Family's about to come over, so I'm having to do this on the fly, but you get the basic idea. And, you know, Ice Mirror is going to be an interesting concept. She kind of reminds me of, at least in some ways, as Dorcas, in a sense. Granted, Dorcas has a bit more defense, but she's a bit better all-arounder, and judging by the fact that she does have a distant counter weapon, she could potentially do the same sort of thing. Less attack, though. So, the one thing, though, that Fjorm actually has as an advantage that not many people seem to really get and seem to forget about it, just because, again, free unit. Free unit. Going to be a pretty interesting free unit. But also, unlike a lot of the other free-to-play units, like, say, you know, Black Knight, Joshua, who's coming up, or Arden, all these other, you know, be it GHB, Tempest Trial, whatever, she's going to be available, at least right now, when it comes to Legendary Hero thing, she's going to be available in the summoning pool. So you will be able to summon for her. Will she be added to the pool afterwards? Remains to be seen. Probably will, but yes, she's going to be a unit that you're going to want to watch for. I think she'll be a strong contender to at least be a very powerful baiting tool. At least when it comes to mages and even archers at this point. I mean, 30 defense is a pretty substantial increase, and, you know, as a unit, she can be pretty valuable. And that's something that I find really fascinating about her. I'm probably going to end up adding some music in the background after post, so all of this nonsense about me not having any sound is going to be weird, but yes, based on what we can see here, and again, even more to point out is when you do summon her, if you do decide to go for summoning her, you can actually get her with variations in her IVs instead of having to just be the plain neutral that she would come from, you know, when it comes to Chapter 1 of Book 2. So, yes, there's a lot more to her, a lot more interesting things that you could probably make out of her. She's going to be, I mean, she's also going to, of course, come with her own full set by the looks of things, so that's cool. She's only lacking a repositional ability or command skill, so a lot of you might be invested in that, and it's going to be a pretty big boon to those who are free to play, at least I think. What it means later on, well, it remains to be seen, but a lot of you are pretty excited for her, and you should be, I think. we'll have to wait and see exactly how this is going to play out. Maybe these stats aren't final, or maybe whatever the hell these things are will be a bit more interesting to look at. We don't yet know what those mean. Those are a new element entirely. It could just be something irrelevant, or it could be something game-changing even more for her, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's Fjorm for you guys. I figured I would talk to you about it, see what you guys thought, and, you know, give you a general overview. Again, big thanks to Gast for pointing out all of this to me. And go check out his podcast. I hope that worked out better. Anyways, for now, nerds, catch you later. Thanks for watching. See you soon.